Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another episode of the Paul Brown Show, taping live at 2 Expose You Studio. I have Mr. Darryl Goodman, founder, and that's the Ray Harvey. He's the chief engineer. This evening, I have the lovely Miss Tracy Smalls. How you doing, man?
I am wonderful. How are you?
I'm doing great. You're
Awesome.
an author, motivational speaker, you're a cook, you're a producer of a show, the Tracy Smalls Show. Tell the audience a little bit about yourself, Miss Smalls.
Well, as he's mentioned, I'm an author. Did not mention motivational speaker.
God, I forgot about that. Tell me.
But yes, I'm a motivational speaker. I enjoy cooking. I do have a cook show.
Okay.
A cooking show on YouTube and Facebook. I just freestyle and prepare to people what I think they want. And Tuesday nights, Taco Tuesday nights, and Fridays, I just kind of freestyle a little bit and try to put some little things together here and there and just prepare it for the audience and see how they like it. And so far, great reviews.
What made you get into being an author, writing your books?
Well, never in my life I thought that I would be an author. But through the challenging times in my life, I decided if I'm feeling this way from the things that have happened in my life, how many more people may be dealing and going with the same thing? So I decided to write, to encourage, inspire, and motivate others to share my story. And that's what took me there. But never in my wildest dreams did I think I would ever be writing books. But I enjoy it.
Your first book. Tell us a little bit about that first book that Tracy Smalls put into our lives.
Well, the first book is Overcoming Destructive Relationships, and I believe in everything there's a starting point to everything. And for me, that book resonated with me as far as the title, because there were a lot of things that I missed as a child, and growing up into adolescence and then an adult, it really had affected me negatively. The things that I encountered as a child and never really discussed it and talk about it with anyone, I felt, let me put it on paper. Number one, it was therapeutic for me because I was able to write out what I was experiencing and what I was feeling. But the marriage that I was in actually brought it out of me. It brought it out of me because I realized in that relationship I accepted a lot of things because I didn't know how to handle it because I didn't have those tools as a child. So I figured, let me write this book and share it with others.
How would you describe a perfect relationship?
I don't necessarily think that there's a perfect relationship. However, I do believe that God has created someone just for me or just for you. I do believe that. But perfect, I think that that would be putting too much pressure on an individual, because I don't think anyone is necessarily perfect. But I do believe that communication is key. It is key.
Okay, communication. If there is a lack of communication, what would that create in a relationship?
Oh, total mayhem. If you're not a great communicator and you're saying something and I'm receiving it in a different way, or another individual is receiving it in a different way, you could say something and my perception of what you're saying could be completely different. So what happens? It causes a breakdown in the relationship, because it's like, I didn't tell her that, but that's what I may have heard. So instead of assuming, go back, let's talk about it all over again. Let's revisit this thing to determine, why is there a breakdown in this relationship? What's going on? Why are you feeling this way towards me? Because you feel the energy of folks. You know, a lot of times your body language, your action says more than your mouth could ever say. So I do believe, in my experience and in my opinion, communication is key.
Who do you feel are better communicators, men or women?
Well, I'd say women. I would say a woman, because we enjoy talking. We like sharing. We like expressing ourselves and getting out what we're feeling. Whereas on the other hand, men seems to be a little bit more quiet and reserved when it comes down to communicating and expressing themselves. So yeah, I do believe that women, I mean, I like to talk, and just being around women and talking to women in my circle, we enjoy talking. We talk about, I tried, explaining this to my husband, or I tried explaining this to my significant other, but he kind of just shut it off and said, we'll be okay. No, we're not going to be okay. We need to talk this thing through. So women, I'd say we're better communicators.
I know on one of the movies, Jack Nicholson said, you cannot handle the truth. Do you feel that sometimes women can't handle the truth?
I do believe that. I often explain to women, don't ask questions that you're not ready to have an answer for. Because if you ask a question, you got to be ready to do something with it, especially if it's something that's going to hurt you. You got to be ready for that. So in my experience, I could speak for myself. Yes, sometimes we want to know the truth, but when it hits us, we just cannot handle it. So I often tell folks, don't ask questions that you're not ready for. Don't ask questions, and if it's something that you're unable to handle, you got to be ready to deal with it, take care of it. Just say, for example, we use infidelity, for example. If you're constantly pounding someone to tell you the truth, and you're not ready to do something with the truth, especially if infidelity took place and you're not ready to do something with it, why do you want to know? Why would you want to know if you're not ready to either walk out that door or mandate that he explains to you why it happens and so forth and so on? Why would you want to know?
In relationship, why do women stay? I know a lot of times it has to do with finding answers, but why are they willing to accept abuse?
Unfortunately, that could vary from person to person. A lot of times we're raised in a culture where it's acceptable, unfortunately. Back in the days, women stayed with men that have been with the next door neighbor, the one up the street, the one around the corner. They have kids all over the place, and they accepted that. The men were out working, the women were at home taking care of the children. Everyone knew their place. He's doing whatever he's doing, but I'm in here with the kids, he's handling the bills. This is what it is. And I think sometimes they adjusted to that and just dealt with it. I think sometimes a lot of people stay, as you've just mentioned, financial reasons. Some people stay because of the children. And some people stay just out of mere loving a person so much that they're willing to accept whatever is dished out at them. Now, I stayed in relationships because sometimes we cling on to hope. We hope that it'll get better. We hope that this person will change, and we love them so much we're willing to wait.
Motivational speaker. What makes Tracy Smalls a great motivational speaker?
I'm compassionate. I'm very compassionate about what I'm speaking on. I'm relatable. I believe that experiences sometimes could be the best teacher, and most of what I talk about is what I've already been through. Sometimes books cannot teach you everything that life can, so I've lived it. Living it and being able to share it, I think, is more powerful than studying it and being able to share it. That's my opinion and my take on that.
Why do we in society need to have that motivation in life?
Oh, I think it's simple. Some people get complacent. Some people don't believe that they deserve better. And all it takes is someone just to give them that little boost. And I'll use my daughter, for example. Smart as ever. Scored, I think she was number 10 in the States on a huge French exam. Smart as she could be. But her self-esteem, she lacks that self-esteem because she feels like, what if I mess up? What if I can't do it? So all it takes is me sometimes pushing her and being that driving force behind her. If I can't motivate my children, how could I motivate anyone else? So I am determined to push her. Now she's gotten to the point to where she decided to get out there and start doing some things towards what she knows she's capable of doing, but she allows fear to grip her heart, and all she needs is just that little tug.
2020, we've been through this thing called the coronavirus, COVID-19. This has brought a new something that has never been seen in our life. How will this affect people in their thinking in the future?
Well, that's kind of hard to say because I think it's based on everyone individually and their beliefs. For me, I'm a very spiritual person, and so I go back to God. I go back to my spiritual roots to help me navigate my way through this pandemic and during this time. The only advice that I could give to people is protecting the things that you allow to get into your ear, your mind. You have to reserve it because it's just so much going on right now. You have the pandemic, folks are getting sick. It's almost like you have to kind of deal with it the best way you're able to on your own. What works for me is shutting everything down. What works for me is I don't want to hear about the pandemic today. Well, someone else may need someone to talk them through it and let them know that it's going to be okay. Take a pause. Do what you're supposed to be doing that they're suggesting that we do, as far as making sure we're maintaining, social distancing, wearing our masks, just reassuring people, because unfortunately, we don't have all of the answers. And this is one of those situations where we just don't know. Everyone is trying to get through this process as best as they can. We just lost a family member to the pandemic, and it was extremely difficult. It was a time where we did not expect him to leave from here, because this was a man that was not sick at all, besides a cold or, just the common ailments of folks. And to have him pass, it was shocking to us, but I had to go back and renew my mind and think, we're not going to have the answers for everything in life. We're just not built that way. So we have to just go through the motions.
Do you think we will ever be able to live life like we used to prior to this coronavirus?
I think only time will tell that story. Only time will tell. I choose to live each day as it comes. Not tomorrow, not next week, but I take every second as it comes. Only time will tell.
You're a producer of a show. Tell the audience a little bit about your TV show.
Well, the TV show is called Yummy's Cooking. And
wait a minute, hold on a second. We want to know Yummy. Why you call it Yummy?
Well,
come on now, let's
number one, the food is delicious.
Okay.
So I'll pat myself on that.
Okay.
The food is delicious, but the name, my ex-fiance, in fact, called me Yummy. He said, because I had high cheekbones. It comes from a family. So he called me Yummy. He's like, you have some really big, high cheeks. And I'm like, why are you calling me Yummy? Because you have plum-like cheeks, and I love plums. So, okay, I'll roll with that. But then when he passed, and as I began cooking, actually before he died, I told him a few months ago, I said, you know what? I am going to call my show Yummy's Cooking. And then when he passed, I was like, this is it. This is it. I am going to use that name. Number one, he gave it to me. Number two, the food is delicious.
What made you get into cooking?
Oh, I've been cooking for a long time. My mother worked in a restaurant for over 20 years. And I watched her. She never taught me. I just watched and began cooking. And I like throwing different ingredients together and just trying out different things. In fact, the other night on the show, I was telling some of the ladies, okay, you know, there are a lot of country men out here. They like the lima beans, the cornbread, ham hocks. Let's kind of play with their palates a little bit and see what they like. Just mix some things up and do something a little bit different. So I just always enjoyed cooking. Always enjoyed cooking.
Your ex-fiance, tell us a little bit about him.
Oh, he was a great guy. He was a really, really great guy, a friend more than anything else. And unfortunately, you know, life happens and it just didn't work out, but we remained friends. And that was more important to me than anything else. He was very charismatic, loves life, loves laughing, loves cracking and telling jokes. Just a fun guy, hardworking man, very respectable. My family loved him. He literally became like one of the family members, my family members. In fact, my grandmother, on her deathbed, a few weeks, I believe, before she passed, out of everyone else, she asked about him. How's BJ? Because everyone loved BJ. Just a nice guy.
So did y'all break up or did he die?
Well, we split apart at that time because unfortunately in life, you may be in a situation with an individual that may not want what you want at that time, or vice versa. So I believe after 7 years, it was time to sever the relationship because for me, commitment in marriage is extremely important to me. And I felt like after 7 years, it was time to make that move. And on the other hand, he figured, let's just take care of some other things first. But I just didn't believe in that. So it was better that we went our separate ways. And that's what we did, but remained friends.
What is the one important thing that Tracy wants to accomplish in life?
Leaving a legacy for my daughters. The books and my son, my granddaughters. In fact, I have a 3-year-old granddaughter, and my son is blessing me with twin girls. Okay. They will be here in November. So I'll have 3. Thank you so much. So it was important for me to leave a legacy for them. If they're having any issues in life, they could go back to that book and say, hey, my mama wrote this. In fact, the second book that I wrote is called Gabrielle, the Biggest Little Dreamer. And I wanted something for them. I wanted them to look forward to something. A lot of times we ask our children, what do you want to be when you grow up? But no one ever really asks us, who are you? What is your purpose? Why do you think you're here in this world? So that book, Gabrielle, the Biggest Little Dreamer, is essentially about a little girl dreaming of what she could possibly become out of life.
When Tracy Smalls looks in a mirror, who does she see?
I see a smart and intelligent woman who's willing to do anything within the right restrictions to get and obtain what she wants out of life. I'm fearless. I love myself. And I'm unstoppable. The sky is the limit for me.
And how does that make you feel right now?
Oh, like a burst of energy. I could shoot through the roof. I feel good about myself.
That's good feel. Sky's the limit now.
Sky's the limit.
And as a motivational speaker, why is that so important that people feel like that in life?
It's important because I believe that God created all of us for a purpose. And unfortunately, there are a lot of gifts in the grave right now. Folks never living up to their fullest potentials. God placed us here for a purpose. My daughter, we were driving one day and she said, Mama, even the trees have a purpose. It gives us oxygen. And you look at it and sometimes we really don't take in consideration the little things. She's like, we're afraid of spiders, but the spiders eat up the bugs. that could potentially harm us. So I believe that there's a purpose for all of us here, and that's why I think it's just so vitally important that we tap into that.
I think that there's a lot of times there's an obstacle that comes in our life, and a lot of times we tend to, because that obstacle comes, we tend to not want to complete that task, but to just forget about it instead of trying to go to options. And I think that's one of the things that we tend to not use to complete something, that we should always remember that we should use that other options.
Oh yes, I mean, honestly and truthfully, I could speak about myself. Dealing with my for the last marriage that I was just in fact, my divorce was just finalized a little over a month ago. I was determined that nothing was going to stop me from accomplishing what I wanted to accomplish. I pushed through it. When I tell you I pushed through it, by any means necessary, I did what I needed to do to make sure that Tracy came out on top. I just wasn't having it any other way, because life happens. What are we going to do? If we sit down right now and don't do anything in our life, we'll be in the same position next month, the next month, next year, regardless of what's going on in our lives. As long as you're still alive, why not use that opportunity regardless of what's going on and pushing your way through it? Mentally, it almost destroyed me. Never even, I heard the word narcissist, heard of the word narcissism, but never really understood it until I lived through it. But I was determined I was not going to allow that obstacle to take control over the rest of my life. I used that opportunity that could have been damaging for me, that could have destroyed me, and I turned it around and put it into purpose. I made some type of purpose out of it, and this purpose is birthing out a book that could help others, not potentially, but help others, because that's what I'm mandating it to do, putting it out there in the universe.
How come we allow fear to stop us from getting that gift, that blessing that God has for us in life?
Sometimes simply just because we don't believe in ourselves. Simple. We just don't believe in ourselves, and we allow fear to grip our hearts. It's just that simple. And I think in a situation like that, it's just having a good group of people around you. A lot of people are not spiritual folks, unfortunately, so we can't always take that avenue. But what we can do is maybe get a life coach, someone that could help you usher through that. Like my daughter, as I was explaining, she was fearful of not being able to do the things that she wants to do, but it's just finding someone to motivate her to do it. And I also think sometimes if we pay attention to people around us, you don't necessarily have to hear a person telling you they're fearful, but you could see a gift in them, and maybe sometimes just encourage them. Why aren't you doing that? You're so good at that. Why don't you do it? Then they're like, wow, she's noticing that in me. Maybe I can.
Why is it so important that someone hears you telling them something that's encouraging?
Oh, that's vitally important, because we're living in a mean and crazy world right now. And someone sometimes just needs to hear that simple, you're beautiful. The other day, a friend of mine, just as simple as a man opening the door for her in the store, and she says, "Thank you so much, sir. That was so sweet of you." And he said, "Wow, I appreciate you, sis, for just saying that. It just made me feel good that you acknowledged something good that I had done." So it's just hearing someone saying, "You're okay. You did something great today."
I know we're running short on time. if someone wanted to get in contact with you, how would they go about doing that, Ms. Smalls?
Well, I'm on Facebook under Tracy Smalls. I also have a YouTube channel, which is also under Tracy Smalls. My email address, if anyone wanted to email me, to get in touch with me, that email address is booksuccess792@gmail.com. Everything that I do is for a purpose. I'm mandating that that book will be successful, and that's where that email address originated from. So I'm constantly thinking.
Thank you, Ms. Smalls, for coming on the show. I really appreciate it, and I look forward to having you back on the show.
Absolutely, my pleasure.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for watching the show. Go on www.2exposure.com to see some more exciting producers and some more shows. And you be encouraged. Thank you.